Is Jeff Green a star? Is the Thunder defense as bad as it seems? And is the Thunder back in the lottery race? Hi, this is Thunder Madness. Barry Trammell moderating with Thunder beat writer Darnell Mayberry, NBA writer Mike Baldwin, and guys, another interesting week with the Thunder. 0-3 since the All-Star break, and a couple of trends have developed. The Thunder can't stop anybody, but they can score, and one of the guys scoring is Jeff Green, 20 points a game in the month of February. Point counterpoint. Is Jeff Green a blossoming star? Darnell.
I'm going to say no. I think he's a blossoming sort of secondary option. I don't think he's a star. There was a lot of comparisons. Mike Baldwin got a quote from Doc Rivers earlier this season who said he's sort of the Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan. I think, Scottie Pippen was sort of a star. I mean, he was a decent player. But I wouldn't put Jeff Green to that star level yet. I think he's a solid complementary player.
Scottie Pippen was voted one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history.
He was an all-star many times, and the word was blossoming star. He didn't say he was a star right this second. Anybody that's averaging 20 points a game, his second season in the league, I'm not saying he's a definite all-star, but I'll be surprised if he doesn't make one or two all-star games in the next 10 years before it's all said and done. It may take another 3 or 4 years. For one, this team would have to win enough games to get more than Kevin Durant in the all-star game to get that second person. So we're probably talking at least 4 or 5 years down the road before he's even, quote, all-star. But he's a blossoming star. You've pointed it out in your own articles against yourself. He's the second best player maybe in last year's draft behind, guess what, Kevin Durant. Who else is even better from that draft than Jeff Green? If you're the second best player from your draft, to me, that's a blossoming star.
That's true, but when you use the word star, you're looking at guys like LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, Dwight Howard. Those guys are stars.
Those guys are stars. Now, let me say this. Those guys are superstars. I think there's a level right below them. Or below them.
Right below them, Joe Johnson, Vince Carter, those kind of guys. Let me ask you, I don't think he's to that level. I don't think he's blossoming into that.
You don't think he's blossoming into a Joe Johnson?
No, let's go back to Kevin Martin. Probably may never make an all-star game. Guys like that.
I wouldn't consider Kevin Martin a star.
See, that's where we disagree right there. Kevin Martin's a star.
He's a phenomenal scorer, but I wouldn't consider him a star.
Let's do away with the noun star, which seems to be contentious. How much more improvement are we going to see, say, in the next year from Jeff Green? From year 1 to year 2, even from opening night here until late February, the improvement has been dramatic. How much better can this guy get in the near future?
Well, the first thing is when we were writing stories in September, this team's come to town. We're trying to introduce people to the roster, exactly who's on it. And the numbers were 10.5 points a game his rookie season for Jeff Green, who wasn't even a starter most of the first half of his rookie season. He is now averaging 20 points for this month. For the season, it's over 16 now. We all agreed on these very videos in preseason, if he averaged 14 or 15, it would be a dramatic improvement. He's already up to 16 and rising. I see him maybe getting to the 18 to 20 point a game range 2 or 3 years from now. This year, the fact he's gotten to 16, I think is very good progress. And his assists are up, his rebounding's up, and his field goal percentage, he's up across the board. I just think he's had a good season.
I think he's going to get a lot better, but I don't think his numbers are going to get that much better because when you look, he's averaging about 17 and 7 right now. I think that's where he's going to be for most of his career. Jeff Green is a guy who's going to do all the little things. He's not worried about numbers, and I think that's going to hurt him in terms of building on his numbers. He's worried about playing defense and getting rebounds and sort of doing the dirty work. He's not worried about scoring and sort of padding his stats. I'm not saying Kevin Durant or anybody else is on this team, but he's not worried about those things. He's doing the little things, sort of the intangible things, and I think that's what he's more focused on.
And before we go to the next subject, biggest shot of the year, Jeff Green, Golden State.
Well, let me just say this. A guy who averages 17 points, 7 rebounds a game, and does the little things is a heck of a ball player. Last weekend, the Thunder goes out west, gives up 140 points to Phoenix, 133 points to Golden State. This team's defense obviously still lacking. The trade for Tyson Chandler doesn't go through. Is the Thunder defense regressing, or are they just hitting the stretch of playing really good offensive teams?
I think it's getting worse. You have to give Phoenix and Golden State credit because they're up and down teams. They're among the league leaders in scoring. But when you look at the fact that the field goal percentages that the Thunder's given up are terrible. 40, high 40s, low 50s, low to mid 50s that they're giving up to opponents. They've given up 100 points in their last 6 games leading into the Lakers game on Tuesday night. So I think they're getting worse. I think the young players are focusing more on offense than they are defense. When you look at Kevin Durant's averaging 30 points this month, Jeff Green's averaging 20 this month, and Russell Westbrook's a shade under 20 this month. So these guys are focusing more on offense than they are defense, and I think that's really hurting this team. The other thing is Desmond Mason's injury. The fact that he hasn't been in the game for the last few weeks. Joe Smith hasn't been playing. Their best defensive guys are on the bench, either hurt or just not playing, so that's hurt this team.
I totally agree, but the crazy part, the way this season's gone the last month, is they were a better basketball team. They were starting with New Year's Eve. They were above 500. We knew February was going to be a tough month because of who was on the schedule, more road games than home games. But when you watch these games, one, they're letting teams play their style. I mean, when the Suns and Golden State want to play fast, you got to slow them down a little bit. Even though this team's athletic, you're letting them, especially on the road, you're letting them play their style. And the other thing is, they're not guarding anybody. A lot of these points are coming in the paint, on dunks, on fast breaks. You got to at least get in front of somebody, and they're spending so much energy on the offensive end. I mean, they keep talking about in practice, we're concentrating on defense. We're concentrating on defense. In fact, we're going to ask Coach Brooks tonight, one of the best 5 practices we had all season long right before they went out on the West Coast. And I said, you might as well not even practice then if that's the defense you're going to see after one of your best practices, because that's the one thing that I'm curious, the new guy from the Bulls, Thabo, is that how we say it?
Thabo Sefolosha.
I think he's the one that's going to at least, he got 5 fouls the other night. I mean, at least he was trying to guard somebody and fouling somebody. How he mixes in this. Weaver's defenses at times looked okay. Green can play good defense, but has not the last 2 or 3 weeks. Durant's defense has been bad from the get-go. At times shows flashes of playing good defense. These guys can play better defense. If they keep preaching it, at some point they got to show it on field goal percentage and points allowed. Right now they're not.
No matter how good the perimeter defense gets, will it matter until they get an enforcer in the middle?
It always helps some, just because basketball is a lot of one-on-one matchups. If you get beat, somebody else got to provide help defense. That breaks down the whole defensive play. So all the guys on this roster have to start playing better one-on-one defense. Your element you're talking about, the Tyson Chandler, everybody's a little disappointed. Some of us would have taken that risk and invested $25 million in a player that, you know, and everybody else says, well, that's not your $25 million to spend, and management decided to go against it. But until they get somebody like that on the back end, it won't be a great defense, but it can definitely be better than it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, when you look at the best defensive teams, Detroit, San Antonio, Boston, LA, these guys have, you know, anchors in the middle. Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Rasheed Wallace, Antonio McDyess, Pau Gasol, Andrew Bynum. These guys have big centers or power forwards that can really help out their perimeter players. So until they get that, I would say it's not going to be anywhere close to what it could be.
A few weeks ago, the Thunder had come alive, was fast leaving the basement of the lottery standings behind. They've come back to the pack now. I think tied for the second fewest wins in the league. Is the Thunder getting back into the lottery mainstream? Are they going to be right there when we draw those ping pong balls after the season? Are Thunder going to have as good a chance as anybody?
Well, I put in last Sunday's paper the Blake Griffin sweepstakes, where everybody was now, and where I projected, looking at everybody's schedule the rest of the season. I think they're going to end up with the 5th worst record. One, this team was playing better when the schedule softens up a little bit. It's not an easy schedule in March, but it's easier in February. There's some home games they can win. I think they'll steal 1 or 2 on the road, which is still the big bugaboo. When you only have 3 road wins, that's where this team's got miles to go to be a playoff team in the next few years. But, I mean, Sacramento is just bad. They're like 3-26 their last 29 games. The Wizards are playing a little bit better. There's even, you know, Agent Zero is going to come back at some point. I want to see it to believe it. Clippers aren't very good. Even though they won Monday night, they've been getting blown out by 30 and 40 points. I think those 3 teams will be in the bottom 3, and then it's a matter of Oklahoma City and Memphis fighting for that 4th, 5th spot. I don't think no matter how much improvement they make, they'll catch a Minnesota or a Golden State or Indiana or Toronto. So my guess is they're going to be 4 or 5, but I don't think they'll fall to the bottom 3.
You know, I think it's really a non-issue. I think, you know, it's only happened twice since the last time the NBA tweaked the lottery system. I believe it was '94 that the team with the worst record got the #1 pick. So as long as the Thunder has like the 3rd or 4th worst record, which I think they will, they got a great shot to get that #1 pick. So, I really think, it's much ado about nothing. And in the end, it won't matter.
Barry, that's where I disagree a little bit, just because the #1 pick, the worst record team, hasn't gotten it very much. And so everybody, when they were 3-29, oh, great, they're getting Blake Griffin. And we had to point out you only have a 25% chance. You have 250 of those 1,000 lottery balls when that comes out. But when you look at that chart I run Sunday, I mean, if they end up with the 5th worst record, it's 8.8% chance. The Bulls beat long odds last year. I think they were 2% chance, and their ball happened to fall in there. That was rare. But when they fall down there, I think their chances of getting #1 go way down. If you get in that 4th, 5th area where I think they are, it's like 11%, 8% compared to 25 or 19. But then again, we've been arguing on videos. We'll argue about it again for the next 4 months. Does Presta use 3 draft picks to try to trade up and get Blake Griffin? Is Blake Griffin a guy they're really going to go for? We'll talk about this ad nauseum. But the top 3 teams have about 85% of the balls in there. One of those 3 teams usually end up. The #1 team doesn't always get it, but usually one of the top 3, and I think they're going to fall out of the top 3.
Last thing I'll say about it is that, there's 26 games left heading into the Lakers game. If this team could go 26-0, I think that would be better than getting Blake Griffin.
I agree.
I think to establish winning habits, I think is more important for this team than to play for Blake Griffin. For a guy who may or may not come in and be the guy you think he is. I mean, we all know that he's a phenomenal talent, but I think establishing winning habits for Kevin Durant, Jeff Green, and Russell Westbrook, learning how to win close games, I think that's more important than anything.
Well said. That'll do it for this week's edition of Thunder Madness. Stay tuned for more videos from newsok.com regarding the NBA and full coverage in the Oklahoman. Barry Trammell for Darnell Mayberry and Mike Baldwin.